Okay, wow. Sitting here editing that right now. That was cringy. Okay, let's just roll into the video. Let's go. Today I'll be reviewing the Nike, long name. Nike Air Zoom Tempo Next Percent. Yeah, normally I just call them the Tempos. Anyways, I think this is a great shoe for about anyone and for about any kind of run. It has enough cushion for, your easy days, your long runs, but it's light to where it's not going to be like a really heavy, chunky shoe. Although, I mean, the midsole is pretty chunky. But, then it also has that plate in there with the Air Zoom unit, the ZoomX foam. So, I mean, it's going to be great for those workouts, too. You're about to get that speed in as well. Yeah.
Yay!
Alright, so I want to start off with the pros. And we'll start with the upper here. I really like the tongue, which, I mean, there's not really a tongue, but this tongue kind of area. The rest of the upper is very, firm, not super stretchable, but the tongue is very stretchy, which is great because that allows for the upper to kind of adjust around the size of your foot, considering everyone's foot is different size. So I really like that. As well, moving down right just to the upper itself, it's very breathable, very, very thin, very light, and that just complements the shoe in general. Midsole is awesome. You have the half ZoomX and then half React, and the React's really just in the heel, which is great for the people who are heel striking on their longer runs. The React is going to help just absorb more of that impact, versus being more responsive in the forefoot. And you have the plate in there, which is, like I said, great for those workouts, but even on long runs when you're trying to push the pace and whatnot, I really felt that, and I really liked that a lot. As well as the Air Zoom unit. Alright, let's talk about a couple of negatives. In my opinion, the laces are just generic laces. They don't always stay tied the best. I'd like to see maybe the laces that they put on the Dragonflies. I think those would have probably helped stay tied better. I think then, really the only other downside to the shoe is just the longevity of it. I think the upper and the midsole itself can probably last, up to 500 miles, maybe 400 on the safe side. Except, on the toe here, have the separation there, have the wear on the heel. Now personally, I get that on a lot of my shoes, but then actually on this other shoe, I'll show you there where there's that gap right there, in the outsole. And this is a common thing among all of the Nike Tempo percents, is the ripping there and separation just throughout the shoe. So I think, if you do what I do, where I cycle my shoes, I have 2 pairs of shoes at a time, and this isn't your only shoe, I think this is a great shoe to pick up, for your long run, as a daily trainer, maybe just for workouts or just tempo runs, whatever you need. But it definitely has its downsides. It definitely has its positives. It's just, are you willing to spend the $200? Which leads us into the next part. Alright, so the price, like I just mentioned, $200. Actually got mine on sale at Gary Gerbils. I think I ended up getting them after tax, $260 or so. So if you can find a sale, I think, that's awesome. I mean, again, in my opinion, is this shoe worth it or not? It depends. If this is the only shoe you're gonna get, I don't know. It's hard to say because, I was cycling this with the Brooks Hyperion, and this shoe barely lasted all the way through the season. And if this was your only shoe, you're gonna get this shoe real ripped up, real beat up, and a beat up shoe is just gonna potentially lead to injury. But if you're running 2 to 3 shoes at a time, I think this is definitely a shoe you should consider. if the cost isn't a worry. Next shoe I want to review is the Nike Invincible. This is a shoe I recently picked up for the summer to help just, shoe itself is supposed to be made for getting in miles, and that's what you do in the summer, you just get in miles. Also be competing for at AAU Junior Olympics, obviously if I qualify all the way to nationals, and this is not a shoe I'm going to be running the workouts in for that, but I think this is a shoe I'll be running, almost all of my easy runs, just general mileage runs this summer, and long runs, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, again, I want to start with the pros. First things first is again the tongue. Nike, I think, did a really good job with this tongue. It's a gusseted tongue, meaning you have the individual tongue itself, but then about halfway down it's attached into the side of the shoe. I really like this because when I'm running, the tongue doesn't move from side to side. For example, like with my Vans, I'll be wearing them, and all of a sudden 30 minutes later the tongue, like, you can't even find it, it's off to the side. But yeah, so I really like the tongue. And then what I really like is this heel counter. It helps, to stabilize the foot, which is something I actually need help with. I have insoles that are actually there to help my arch, and this doesn't directly help my arch, but it just helps that pronation in my stride. The next thing I really like is the midsole, the full ZoomX, coming from this shoe which had the React on the heel. This is the full ZoomX. I believe it's a modified ZoomX that's supposed to, last a little bit longer. Because for example, the ZoomX and like the Next Percents, that's only supposed to last about like 200 miles. Now part of that's because of the carbon fiber plate, but this is a little bit modified. It's a little bit stiffer, as you can kind of feel when comparing the two ZoomX foams, but that's a good thing. That's just gonna allow it to last longer. So this shoe is supposed to last around 500 miles. I have about 50 in it right now, but this shoe, like, if I was gonna describe it, literally just running on marshmallows. It's super squishy, super bouncy, super comfortable. I mean, just walking in this shoe, it's crazy, because it's just something like I've never felt before. I've ran in Hokas in the past, and I'm like, wow, those are, I had the same reaction, but this is just a whole next level. So I mean, I really love the midsole, very cushiony, and a very smooth ride. I know I've had a friend complain about there being not enough cushion in the forefoot compared to the heel, and maybe he's more of a forefoot striker than I am. I think I'm more of a midfoot striker. Sometimes I do heel strike, but I haven't had any issues with it. I've really loved the midsole. And as far as the positives, I think they're really good positives. That's about all I have is like super positive. But the shoe itself, I think, is a positive. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the negatives. There's honestly not very many negatives or things that I don't like about the shoe, except just how like thick and heavy the upper is. The shoe itself is generally pretty light because thanks to the ZoomX midsole. However, the upper, and I don't know if this is just a first generation thing, so that way they can easily cut down on the weight for the Invincible 2 or whatever, but the upper is heavy and thick and kind of suffocating to my foot. So if you run through a puddle, I can only imagine the shoe getting super heavy, and I haven't really I don't feel like the lack of breathability is going to be that hard in the summer. I think the main thing is just it being a super thick upper that's going to absorb the water and hold it. So I'd like to see almost an upper more like the Tempo, or just something thinner and lighter. But I mean, besides that, you know, there's really nothing negative I have besides the shoe, except on this one. First time I wore these was actually biking, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I kind of cut the midsole there. I mean, that's not the shoe's fault. That's not Nike's fault or anything. That's just my fault from riding the bike. Yeah, let's head on into this next part of this. So the price, I believe, was $180. Got these on sale as well for about $160. And you know, I think this is a great shoe for those easy runs, those long runs, but I would not wear these in a workout. I would not, you know, if you're going to be getting one shoe, don't even consider these. Unless it's just for the summer and you're just be running miles, okay, I think this is a great shoe. But if you're going to be running workouts, I would not get this shoe. It's just not going to feel right. It's not going to feel good. I think, you know, it'd just be too squishy. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the ZoomX foam is very responsive, but without the carbon fiber plate to kind of help, you know, direct that and everything, I think it's just not going to be a great shoe for workouts. But you know, again, like if you're wearing, you know, double, like, you know, using two shoes at once, and you have, you know, a faster paced shoe like the Hyperion or like the Puma Deviate, whatever, then I think this could be a great shoe to wear for your recovery, for your easy days. But yeah, I think if and only if that, this would be a great shoe to buy. Alright, I think that pretty much caps this video off. Reviewed these two, I think, great shoes. You know, leave in the comments if you ran in these, if you like them or not. I get there's a lot of people out there who hate Nike, and some people who swear by Nike. I'm not necessarily someone who swears by Nike. I've just, these last two pairs of shoes I bought are Nike. But yeah, I know I'm definitely jump around, and yeah, leave a comment what you think, if you're gonna buy these or what.